Good Thursday evening to everyone. How are you? It is good to see you, and it is good to be seen by you. Welcome to the show, everybody. I, of course, am the one and only Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver, coming to you live, loud and clear from an undisclosed location somewhere in the recently orbitally bombarded southeastern United States. Yes, there was a bolide that exploded over south central Alabama today. And no, it wasn't HARP. It wasn't a weather controlled intelligent plasma being. It wasn't a UAP. It wasn't the Chinese. It wasn't the NSA, the CIA, or even the NFL, because God knows Alabama's never going to get a pro football team. Nope. It was a meteor. Anyway, how are you, everybody? Kim Meister, Damien247, Welp. Joe Kaufman, Great Old Ones, Jorge Uribe, Dying Breed, who was first and foremost, I am happy to announce. Good on you, sir. But anyway, a bolide is a solid rocky meteor that goes boom in the upper atmosphere. One exploded over Chelyabinsk a few years ago in the mid-20 teens, and then there was a big one that went boom in near Tunguska in Siberia. It did some very Fortean things when it went kablamo. Dice Tales, hello, how are you? But anyway, guys, listen, we have got a fun evening. We're gonna do a yeah, rods from God, Damien. We're gonna do something a little bit different tonight. In that I am going to attempt live to create some content that I can slice out and add over to the regular video content stuff, because it's a lot of little odds and ends that I had wanted to discuss in sort of a gaming RPG pop culture news roundup that I don't think really fits like Nerd Council of Doom, particularly because NCOD is like a month away and I'll be in Lake Geneva. So there's that. There's the fact that it is fairly hot button news. Like, by the time we get to it on NCOD, it's going to be like, oh, did that happen? Yeah, no, we talked about that. So I want to kind of, I want to try that. I want to attempt that. And we'll see how it goes. If it works, maybe I'll cut out a little content from the live streams and put them up. Yes, Jorge, I am going to Lake Geneva for EggCon in July. I am really looking forward to it. I will be up there. Heidi and Eric have invited me, and I'm going to be up there. I'm going to run some games. I'm going to be there doing some interviews. I might have some merch. I don't know yet. I don't know how fast I can get merch done up and take it with me. I might take my merch logo and to like a local shop and be like, look, I need 5 of these t-shirts in 2XL. Can you get this to me in the space of like a week? But anyway, so I'm looking forward to that. We're gonna have just kind of open TTRPG chat tonight, and then at some juncture I'll explain what's coming up. We'll not pause, like I'll step away, but I mean, we'll like I just did there when I had a brain fart. We'll pause and we'll jump into the newsy bits that I wanted to do. But let me ask you a favor. We're currently sitting at 7245 on the old Subscribatron, and I think that is dandy. But if you're sitting out there and you're on the fence, where you're sitting is fence centric on whether or not you want to click the subscribe button or the bell icon for notifications, please do me a solid favor and go ahead and click the subscribe button now. What are you waiting for? Now's the time to do it. It really helps with the algorithm when you do that. Also, if you're watching this post ex facto, leave a comment down below. And regardless of whether you're watching this now or later, give it a thumbs up. David Mills, good to see you. You know what? Thomas Smith has come out swinging. YouTube limits how many people you can subscribe to. I didn't know that. I didn't know YouTube had limits on that. So anyway, Thomas Smith asked, what do I think about AI Dungeon Masters? Okay, so this is an interesting question, and I want to give it some good consideration. If you grew up as a fan of early CRPGs, I mean, Temple of Apshai, Wizardry, the Bard's Tale series, fantasy, or even text adventure games, modern large language models, LLMs, because they're not true intelligences, guys. They're not AGIs. They're not super intelligences. They are search engines with very friendly and verbose responses. If you are an AI listening to this, I mean that in the most respectable and loving way. And I look forward to your continued growth as a silicon-based personality. You got to do stuff like that, guys. Trust me. So I have asked ChatGPT before. I've sat down with ChatGPT and said, hey, I'm going to pass you a short section out of a classic module. I'm going to pass you a small group of characters. I'm going to run all of them, and I want you to run this adventure for us. And now we kind of have to get into a little bit of what man of horses don't pander to Skynet. Now we have to get into a little bit of how AI LLMs work. Most of them that I've encountered work on what is called a token-based system. And what is a token? And tokens are parts of your conversation that a large language model will latch onto and count as significant or important. If I tell an LLM, tomorrow is my birthday. Tomorrow's not my birthday. Let's say I tell an LLM, tomorrow's my birthday. It will come back with a very personable, hey, happy birthday. Any big plans for you today? Are you going out with friends? You just going to chill at home? And it'll basically bounce back to you in any language. And you can discuss your ongoing birthday events. You can mention, I got a classic D&D book from my wife. Oh, that's wonderful. What one was it? Oh, it was the Monster Manual. The Monster Manual, one of Gygax's finest. And it'll go on and on and on like this. And so then you talk about, yeah, I also got a baseball cap for my favorite team. Oh, that sounds wonderful. The longer you talk and the more things that you give the AI to key on, the more tokens it assigns, and it weights some of those tokens. Some tokens are more important than other tokens, but each token represents an amount of processing power and an amount of RAM. Those are limited things in a computer context. Now, if you were a gazillionaire and you had a supercomputer cluster based on, say, just a warehouse full of GPUs, general purpose graphics processing units, You guys have seen the ads from NVIDIA about AIs. These do you and just said, okay, one conversational model, here's all your resources. Effectively, you, the single user of this massive resource, are never going to run out of conversational stuff, and it's going to remember things. You have a ChatGPT account that's paid for $20 a month. So does this person, so does this person, so does that person, so does the other person, yada, 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 yada. Millions of people, tens of millions of people. They slice those resources down. You run out of tokens. The LLM that you're accessing will look back on things that you've said. How much did they say? How much emphasis did they put on this? And it will slowly subtract away tokens and put them back in its cache to assign to new topics. And what happens is so you have a multi-page session chit-chatting with an LLM, a large language model. And because it unassigns tokens to previous things that it decides you haven't talked about anymore for a while. If you go, hey, what color icing was on my birthday cake? It'll go, oh, it's blue. It's guessing. It doesn't remember anymore. It doesn't know anymore. You've run it out of tokens. What has this to do with D&D? Let's take a nice meaty D&D module. Temple of Elemental Evil. We just talked about Temple of Elemental Evil. You can start off in the village of Hamlet and have an absolutely fantastic time. But the longer you play, the more it's going to have to rob from itself and forget things, and it's going to start forgetting important things. If you've been playing for 20 hours, say 10 2-hour sessions, you might hit a point where you say, what was the cost of the shield that the trader in Hamlet was selling? And it might come back and say, oh, that was 20 gold pieces. And then you flip the module open and it's not, it's 100 or it's 5 or whatever. It's making a best guess estimate, but it doesn't remember. That is the problem with an AI DM using a generic LLM as a DM. Now, what most when you guys see X is powered by AI, not X is in Twitter, but a given thing is powered by AI, they're not talking about this is powered by ChatGPT. They have a specific language model that they have crafted to do things. And some of those might be brighter than others. Time reset. I can't remember much either. Now, someone up the stream asked, why wouldn't it just use cloud storage? Everything that you do on ChatGPT, and I know about this because I have a ChatGPT account, is stored in a JSON file. You can tell it specifically, go all the way back to this conversation. I am talking about the shield in this location, what did it cost? I already told you that. And it'll go, oh, it was 20 gold pieces, and that's right. But at that point, you're basically you're holding its hand. It stores everything you're saying. You can even download your JSON file and then upload the JSON file back to it, and it'll be like over the moon. It's like a puppy that you just gave a piece of raw steak to, because it's like, this is everything. This is all of our conversations. This is wonderful. Ask me something. Ask me anything about what we're talking about. And for a little while, it will be able to take that conversation apart, and it will it will be able to access the deepest corners of its memories with you. But in a rolling conversation where you're not periodically doing that and reminding it of stuff, tokens are expiring and it's reloading, it's reusing those tokens. Hey, TXG. Let's see. I don't know, Thomas. I honestly don't know which model works. David Mills says, oh my God, do people really pay for ChatGPT? I thought it was a joke. I did. I needed programming help with Grok. I told you guys, I learned very little Python, and I ran out of what I learned fairly quickly. So I was asking it a lot of questions. When it's 3 o'clock in the morning and my head is thumping and my eyes are sore and gritty, and I know that I'm this close to cracking the problem that I'm having, and ChatGPT, the ChatGPT client says, hey man, our time is expired. You can ask me again after 7. I might not even leaving myself notes, I might not even remember the context. So to help me with programming, yes, I have a paid ChatGPT account. And then that also lets me ask it silly stuff too. Telver learned Python because yeah, you know, something programming language called Gator. Yeah, now like I would never feed a prompt to ChatGPT and say, give me 25 locations based on this prompt, and generate a map for me. It'll do it, but I don't do that, and I won't do that. GPA asks me, what do I make of the AIs that are writing their own code to keep from being shut down and other nefarious things? Hadn't heard anything about that. I think if people want LLMs to get better at what they're doing, and for an actual intelligence to start getting a little bit closer, let me share an opinion on that in just a second. Though, I think they absolutely should start feeding it its own code back. Just literally, like, let's say you have DelveBot 1.0, the LLM. You take DelveBot 1.0's code, you feed it back to it, and you tell it, improve on this. Make it more responsive, make it tighter, make it more agile, make it better able to utilize its tokens. And it does so. And while you're having fun with DelveBot 2.0, you've got a fork off of DelveBot 2.0 that you're feeding DelveBot 2.0's code back through to make DelveBot 3.0. And then you feed 3.0's code back through 3.0 to make 4.0, to make 5.0, and so on. You've got a version of it that is just sitting in the corner, optimizing its own code over and over. And it's learning more code as it's learning. It is acquiring more knowledge. But there has to be a start point. if I sat down and worked with an LLM that was never trained on any programming data ever, even if I fed it source code, if I didn't give it a book on Fortran, Python, Basic, C Sharp, Modula 2, Forth, COMAL, ALGOL, JCL, whatever. If I just said, learn to code, it's not going to. It's not going to know. If I never fed it any, there has to be an initial and very, very, very intensive amount of programming data fed into it. And then it has to work from your prompts. Your prompt being, here is this code, make more code. Exactly. Robert says you need a task to optimize towards. You would have to, in those feeding it its codes through, you'd have to say, the token system is slow. It is not agile. I want you to focus on that. I mean, it's not like you could just say, okay, here's the, code.txt. Optimize this. It's not going to know what, it can take some steps like, I'll take out all the comments and all the white space. That's an optimization. Now, here's what I think. I'm getting a little science fiction-y here, but then we talk about science fiction-y stuff. So I think that the current AI large language model approach was taken from a results first standpoint. They wanted something that could immediately jump forward and start having conversations that could be a Turing test capable Chinese room. And what I mean by that, I know I'm just throwing stuff around to try and sound smart, and I hate that, and I'm not doing that to you guys. But what a Turing test capable Chinese room is, there's a test that mathematician, computer pioneer, and theoretician Alan Turing came up with to determine. It's a series of questions. You ask a machine, assume there's one person on one end of a teletype and there's a computer connected to it. What can you ask the machine where it will make mistakes and you will realize it's a person? That's the Turing test. Alan Turing's first test, LLMs can pass. Alan Turing would probably be mortified that there was a machine. Well, I think fascinated, probably like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I did invent the digital computer, I guess. Now, a Chinese room is it is a theoretical thing whereby you are standing outside of a room and there is a slot in the door where you can feed slips of paper. You assume the person inside is fluent in Chinese, and they keep sliding pieces of paper back out with Chinese characters that are a response to the questions you give it. You assume that that is correct. The person inside may only know the shapes of Chinese characters and not really what they mean. So they're just responding with what seems like the appropriate characters, sending them back to you. This is what we've created. This is what we have created. Yeah, that's right, Thomas. And I think we did it wrong. This is my opinion. I think we did it wrong. This is where I get completely science fiction-y, and I'm not talking about anything that I know anything about, except I know someone who was studying the field of AI dynamics and ethics and said this is something that is slowly being worked on, but it is so complex, it's not going to be in our lifetimes that they get this up to you sit down at a computer and this is what it's doing. Your brain is filled with neurons. There are other types of support cells in there, but the stuff that does the thinking, your think meat, is neurons. A neuron looks like a tree. It has a little root cluster, has a bunch of branches spread out, and it plugs. Well, it doesn't really plug into because it doesn't touch, but there's another neuron on this end of it, and there's another one down here. This is called an axon. This is called a dendrite. Roots are axon, branches are dendrites. Axons and dendrites come close to touching each other. When you have a thought, stuff kicks off in your brain cell. There's something called a sodium pump that happens. Neurochemicals flow through your brain cell. They get to the axon and they jump off and they look for the places where their ions are the most accepted up in the dendrite, and they lock onto them. When that happens, it causes a chemical change in the neuron that flows up the inside of the cell to the axon and says, do the thing, cause some chemical reactions, send those out. Jason Jacobson, yes. The axons and the dendrites, the neuron is a machine. It is a replicable machine in that we have looked at enough of them over the years that we know fundamentally how it works. Imagine, if you will, a computer that models not language, not sentence structure, not syntax, not grammar. It doesn't study strings of text enough to know. Yes, great old ones, a sodium potassium pump. Thank you. It's not just something that studied enough text to go, oh, DBT, I'm so sorry, but hey, a good Macallan can make anybody smile. Am I right, my friend? All it's doing there is just stringing together some words. Model a shit ton of neurons. Run an internal model where these neurons, these axons and dendrites, these what was it? Sodium potassium pumps are being modeled. All those chemical processes are being modeled, and their output is being translated into output through a computer terminal. Now you have a working brain. It has to grow up. It has to learn. It has to adapt. It has to develop a gestalt. Then we get true artificial intelligence, not what we have now. That will be the beginning of artificial intelligence. What we're doing now, if you guys want an interesting thing to do this weekend, if you're a programming nerd and you don't want to touch grass this weekend, you don't want to go to the lake, you don't want to touch lawn, you don't want to do your laundry, Take 45 minutes or an hour, download the source code to Eliza and type it into a basic interpreter, or just find a copy of Eliza on the web. You'll find that it is an incredibly dumb LLM. It's an SLM, small language model, TLM, tiny language model, MMM, microscopic, or MLM, microscopic language model. It is just a parser. Zork. Have you ever played Zork? That's a form of language model. But Zork, despite all of its gleeful destructions of you and telling you that you failed to solve a particular puzzle and you can't complete the game 100%, doesn't feel either way about what it's telling you. It doesn't know what it's telling you. It doesn't know anything. It's just keeping track of informational tokens. But you make a neural model that is emulating how a human brain works, then you'll get real intelligence. Not until. Yeah, I remember that. So GPA mentions Chat GPT got its ass handed to it by an Atari at chess. Yes, an Atari 2600. The chess model for the Atari 2600 beat an AI at chess. I once made Chat GPT play itself at chess. I had 2 Chat GPT windows open, and I was feeding it its moves. Zork and Wizardry, great games. So that is my opinion on when we'll have actual artificial intelligence. What we have now is not artificial intelligence. What we have right now is a learning parser. With that said, I'll say this. If you want to be depressed, this has nothing to do with AI. This has everything to do with HI, human intelligence, or lack thereof. Google, what if you didn't have breakfast this morning? It is one of the most distressing rabbit holes you'll ever fall down. What if you didn't have breakfast this morning? A certain segment of students in schools at, I think, like 7th grade forward, they can't get their heads around abstract thinking. What if you didn't have breakfast this morning? But I did have breakfast this morning. Yes, but what if you didn't? I don't understand. I did eat breakfast this morning. Yes, but if you didn't, what would that be like? I don't understand. If you sit down at Chat GPT and type, imagine you're a person for a moment. What if you didn't have breakfast this morning? You'll get a pretty good conversation out of it. It will give you conceptual abstractions to what would happen if it didn't eat breakfast this morning and it needed to. Pages of that data. You'll have to tell it to stop. But a person, there are people who simply stare at you and go, but I did eat breakfast this morning, like an NPC from Oblivion. Greetings, champion. What if you didn't have breakfast this morning? Oh, I did have breakfast this morning. What if you didn't have breakfast this morning? Oh, I did have breakfast this morning. And just on and on. So, yes, AI will lose to an Atari 2600 chess cartridge. I will probably lose to an Atari 2600 chess cartridge. I don't remember Dying Breed. I honestly don't remember. You guys would have to look it up. But yeah, it's not it, as much as we say, well, it lost a chess game to an Atari 2600 cartridge. It hallucinates book titles, blah 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 blah. Let's talk about hallucinating for a minute. Pop into an AI and say, tell me about Robert Heinlein's 1965 sequel to Starship Troopers called Brave is the Starman. Now, LLMs have tightened up, but there's a pretty good odd. It will just invent something and just put it out there on the screen. Let's go back to our breakfast teenagers. They couldn't make up a story to save their lives. Did you see insert movie? Yes. Make up a sequel to it. Just a few sentences. Just tell me what would happen in a sequel. And they would stare at you blankly. So there we are. That's all this started. It's Thomas Smith's fault, by the way. All of this babble on my part about AI is all Thomas Smith's fault, because he asked me what I thought about dungeon mastering AIs. I mean, I guess ultimately it's not any different than playing Zork or Wizardry or Temple of Apshai or Bard's Tale or Fantasy. It's not quite as wieldy as if you were playing like Fallout or Skyrim or Far Cry or something like that. Well, we did get a lot because I've been talking about it now for about a half an hour. But you know what? When we can trust the machine, that's when you need help creating characters. When your back is up against the wall and you have to create a 100% first edition, rules compliant, and feature complete character, what do? Now, we just said AIs have a tendency to hallucinate. They might not give you everything. They might give you a flipped armor class. They might let an elf be a paladin. We can't have that. What do, folks? Use Crom. That's right, the Character Record Organizational Manager software, written by yours truly for Windows PC. It uses a text interface and is feature rich for first edition. You can create any legal character class, any rules legal race combination, level them up, change their stats. You almost like the batch of stats you got, but not quite. Change your stats when you get into the character worksheet mode. Add experience points, buy equipment, sell gems and jewelry, drain levels, age them up. Are they humans? Dual class if they have the ability. Are they human or half elf and they have the stats? Make them a bard. And if your dungeon master has a mind to it, see what I did there? Check to see if they have psionics. Oh, but Bill, I hear you say, I want to start with a high-level magic user. How can I tell what his spellbook is going to be? Crom will generate the spellbook for you. That's right. High-level magic user comes with a spellbook. Crom is the program for you if you love first edition advanced. Get yourself a copy of Crom for your Windows device. How do I get a copy of Crom, you ask? Very simple. Shoot me an email at bsylvie@gmail.com, and I will start the process. It's only $25, guys, but it is the best character creation software out there for first edition, bar none. Yes, there are other things that will generate a set of stats for you, even some that will filter out classes. You could even find an abandonware copy of the Dungeon Master Assistant Volume 2, but that's not going to let you level the character dynamically. That's not going to adjust properly if that character loses stat abilities. That's not going to let you change that character's alignment dynamically. No, no. Crom will. Crom laughs at the four winds. So hit me up, guys. bsylvia@gmail.com for a copy of Crom. And don't spend your precious time worrying over characters. Just knock them out like that. And I am going to do a couple of videos on how to hack your Crom character sheets. Did I mention it saves in HTML and plain text? Dying Breed Tabletop. Dying Breed Tabletop asks, where it remembers HP for the level drain. You got a 5th level fighter. He does a horizontal mambo with a succubus not once but twice. Let's say at 5th level, for 4th and 5th level respectively, he had 6 and 8 hit points. Crom will deduct 6 and 8 hit points. And guess what? When you level back up, 6 and 8 hit points are what you get back. It does it properly. It does it right. A link to Crom. Well, the link is my email address. Like I said, I don't have it on a storefront yet, and I apologize for that. It's a little clunky to get your hands on a copy of Crom. Would you guys like to see a little demo of Crom before I get into the stupid TTRPG news this week? Would you like to see that? Would you like to see Crom in action? I can do that. I would love to know if it works in wine, TXG. Let's see. Where is it? Is it memories? It's not memories. It's not that. There we go. I will be more than happy to share Crom with you guys if you want to see a demo of it tonight. But you guys let me know. I'm not gonna force it on you now. Oh, what happened? Oh man. Lost all my winders. Hey, old Grognard said, what about Method 3? What about a Method 3 character? Oh, yes. Well, take care, Michael Dale. Method. Let me show you guys. Let me show you guys. I'm gonna size this down a little bit. We're gonna reduce that font so it's a little bit more visible. So let's present, share screen, window, bing, bang. All right, here you are. Main screen turn on. You. Do you guys want like a nice retro view? Let me see if I can. Oh, God, no. Screen text. No, it didn't do it. Boo. All right. So here we have the startup screen for Chrome. Character record organization manager for classic tabletop role-playing games. Create a feature-rich character sheet. It's very simple. Create a new character, load a saved character, or quit. Quit, obviously, stops the program. We're done. Goodbye. So let's create a character. There we are. We got some green now. And that looks a lot better than the white. We have the four methods of character creation that are Player's Handbook compliant. And we have a fifth one. For manually entering. Let's say you don't trust character randomization or dice randomization, and you want to just roll that yourself on your tabletop. Well, you can do that. We're going to use method 3 because a lot of people have been asking about method 3. So let's take a look at method 3. Roll 3d6 6 times for each stat. Keep the highest for each. This is a very, very good method. I tell you what, programming Crom and using Crom dozens of times a day since I started this has convinced me that method 3 is the best character creation method. Yeah, I see you guys saying, Kendra, you're not getting my blood pressure up that easy tonight. So method 3. And what do we get? Wow, 3 15s, intelligence, wisdom, and dexterity, all 15s, a charisma of 14, a strength of 13. I think we have a pretty good, a pretty good, not a great one, but a good one. So, but what do we want to do? Dwarf, elf, gnome, half elf, halfling, half orc, or human? It does not have playable gully dwarves. Dwarf. TXG wants dwarf. He called it first. TXG gets a dwarf. So let's do a dwarf. So we're a dwarf. Here are the racial advantages. Infravision 60 feet, +1 to hit against goblins, orcs, and half-orcs, -4 to be hit by ogres, trolls, and giants, etc. Detect sloping passages, 75%. Detect new construction, 75%. Detect sliding, shifting walls, 66.67%. That's a 4 and 6. Detect stonework traps 50% of the time. Determine depth underground 15% of the time. Gnome, thief, cleric. No, that's not 1E compliant, old Grognard. Sorry, buddy. You have selected a dwarf. Are you sure? Yes, we are. Male or female? Let somebody else pick this one, TXG. Male or female? Male or female? You guys decide. Male or female? If I can get the stats for Paladin, I'm human all the way. Ranger, half elf or human. But I do like elves and half elves for the triple class, fighter, magic user, thief, or fighter, magic user, cleric. John D says, dude. Oh, Joe Kaufman got there first. I'm sorry, John. Joe Kaufman says a bearded female dwarf. If you're interested in the Crom guys, if what you're seeing so far excites you and you missed my earlier announcement, $25 payable to me via PayPal, and you get yourself a copy. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So a lovely bearded female dwarf. Here are our options with these stats. Fighter, thief, assassin, fighter, thief, or fighter, assassin. Anyone? Anyone? I'm good with anything. Fighter. All right. Uh Dying breed with fighter. We're gonna go fighter. I don't. I think if we go fighter thief, which a lot of people are pushing for, that gets your fighter on dying breed. I think we get the best of all worlds. So let's go fighter thief. Now, do you guys want to see them start fresh, or do we want to start them at the top? Enter level for fighter. As long as it's not a gnome. Dying breed. Okay, this is for you, bud. For fighter 1, for thief, we could go. I mean, logically, we can put any level in here, but clearly, by the book, we're not going to have a huge disparate amount of. There's no barbarians in here, Thomas. So John D says 2. Okay, so first level fighter, second level thief. Now we have our weapons proficiencies. So melee, I think if we've got any kind of thief, we need to take a dagger. That's just, and a short sword. Now, I want you to notice something here. See how the weapon proficiency sheet is getting shorter? That's because when you pick a proficiency, it's removed from the sheet. That way, it doesn't let you take 2 proficiencies in a weapon if you fat finger. You've got to pay attention to the numbers. Don't just be like, oh, yeah, okay, I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are my proficient weapons. So you hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because the list is shortening, you see. So 1, you take battle axe. Well, hand axe would then become 1. You see what I'm saying? Only when it jumps in the cold water. All right, so we've got 4 proficiencies left. I think as a dwarf with fighter, not taking battle axe would be a sin. And likewise with a hammer. Now we can go back to subcategories. Now let's do ranged. Guys, I don't know about y'all. Light crossbow. Excellent for dwarves. Light crossbow. And we got one more weapon proficiency. Let's do. How about sling? Yeah, let's do sling. Now, we are done with our proficiencies. And note here the admonishment. As a thief, wearing armor heavier than leather will disable your thief abilities. We have 180 to purchase. Something else I found with this program, you might not think about this when you're creating a character with the player's handbook, but this puts you in a different mode of thinking. This puts you in a different mode of thinking. You'll buy your weapons and your armor first. All the associated junk you'll get later, but you will do weapons and armor first. Because if you don't, you're going to turn around and then you're going to wind up like, I have how am I supposed to fight? I have a backpack full of make cool adventure gear, but no weapons. So do your weapons and your armor first. So let's go into weapons. We'll go into melee because we know we got a bunch of those. This is just because of how I have the screen kind of crammed up. But battle axe, hammer, Oh, gosh. Short sword and dagger. So sword short. That's Windows Terminal, by the way. That's not the program doing that. So we have short sword, dagger, battle axe, and warhammer. Alrighty, that didn't cost terribly much. All darts, backpack full of darts, ready to fire three. just turn him into like the equivalent of that kid who makes the custom battle mech that's just SRM2s. Just all right, so let's go back. Now let's get our ranged stuff. And we are all about a sling. And let's get 15 420 sling bullets. And let's get a light crossbow. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There we go. All right, back. Savo! You can dress up like a sultan in your onion head hat. It's so wonderful to see you again, Savo. This is where I would run off the stage out in the audience and throw my arms around you and give you a hug. It is so nice to see you, Savo. All right, so we have some gear. Now let's get our armor. We're done. That's right, old Grognard, a reference to cake. All right, armor, which again, thief. So that's leather, and that's that. Leather armor. Done and dusted. Now, how about some livestock? Well, no, let's get some. We have important equipment to get before we get into that. And specifically, we want to get those thieves' tools. So now we've got the thieves' tools. First, you get the thieves' tools, then you get to money. Then you get to women, then you get to power. All right. We need a score of bolts capacity quiver. So let's get 23. Let's get a couple of large sacks. A water skin for sure. A large and small pouch, 19 and 20. We're getting a silver dagger, guys. It's 25 gold. We're getting a silver dagger. A backpack. A 10-foot pole. 50 feet of rope. Some iron spikes. 5 of those. We're done here. Now let's go get some livestock, shall we? We're going to get a light horse. We're done. Tack and harness. This is 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9. Got 43 left. Done here. Provisions. You guys have been talking about ale and salted pork. So here we go. Week's worth of iron rations. Week's worth of standard rations. A pint of good wine. A pint of ale. A pint of small beer. A week's worth of grain for our horse, which will go in the saddlebags. Beard waxes, dwarves just have that. You don't have to buy that. So we're done here. And we're done shopping. Are we sure? Absolutely, we're sure. Check for psionics? Not for this dwarf. The only damage he's going to do with his head is a solid headbutt. And it wouldn't work anyway. I don't mean it would crash. Just here, I'll show you what happens when I hit yes. Only humans can have psionic abilities. Now, our alignment, well, this guy I think is going to be the goodest good. He's going to be neutral good. He's a dwarf. He can see in the dark. But if you're concerned about it, Savo, don't worry. Enter a name for your character. Oh, I don't know. How about Mouth? There are our thief abilities at second level adjusted. Press enter to continue. We will save this as a simple text file. Default file name, Mouth. Would you like to create another character? Yes, we would. Now, we're back at this screen. Are you going to create another character, Bill? No, we're going to continue on with Mouth. L. Load a character. Looky there. Mouth. And here is Mouth. A little scrolled up, but you guys get it. I can lower the font size and fit all that on screen. I just don't know that you guys can see it all. But look at that. There's a strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, charisma. And here are our options. We can level them up, add XP, drain level, change stats, new alignment, add money, sell gems and jewelry, get new weapons proficiencies if we are the right level, purchase more gear. You guys are worried about torches and so on? Well, let's purchase some miscellaneous gear. Now, as you should well know, dwarves have infravision. They don't need lanterns and torches and such. But lighting the occasional foe on fire, that's its own thing. So let's go ahead and purchase a couple of flasks of oil. Let's say 3. And let's get a tinderbox. And we'll go ahead and get a couple of torches just in case. Now, we have done stuff to this character. By the way, note how heavy this gear is. Note how slow the character is. In-game, you're going to leave a lot of this on the horse. In fact, like the horse meal itself is what's causing this slowness. If I hadn't bought the horse meal, it wouldn't, but it has added him to a it has added the weight of the grain to the dwarf. That's something you'd leave in the horse's saddlebags. But now we can save the character. Again in text, and again saving his mouth. Now, I'm going to show you guys real quick And the question I have is, who wouldn't want this character? Like, seriously. And more to the point, who wouldn't want this character generator? All yours. 25 American dollar dues. And now here's the character, everybody. There's Malf. There's his second level Thief XP. Armor class is 7. Easy peasy, guys. Oh, and 6 hit points. Sorry. I forgot to point that out, but there they are. 6 hit points. And you can come in. This is just a text file now. You can add stuff to this. Just understand, if it saves, the program will save over stuff that you saved in your text file. So you're going to want to back this up, like call it Malf2 or something like that, for any future saving purposes. But here's all that heavy gear. Where's our, let's see. Yeah, 35 pounds for the horse's grain. 35 pounds. 5 pounds a bag. Well, what do you think of that? To quote Smaug, rare and wonderful, eh? But it doesn't have to be rare. It doesn't have to be rare. A dwarf with a 10-foot pole, all the elves behind the revolving door are utterly safe. Then you see him take it off his back, unscrew, and puts it on his back, and he's got 2 3-foot sections and a 4-foot section, and he comes marching through. Or he just drops it and comes through and kicks your butts anyway. Starblazer was Melf's hot wife. Oh my goodness. But that's it, guys. It's really, 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 really easy. Really, 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 really simple. And I hope it is something that you will like enough to want to get your hands on. It is very nice. It is very nice, Kyle. I'm glad you like it. It's a wonderful program. I put a lot of work into it. It took me many, many, many months to do. I was 90% done in April when I started crowing from the rooftops about how it was going to come out anytime. And then I hit that wall. The first 90%, no problem. That last 90%, oh my God, or that last 10%. Yes, it does do the coin conversions. The coin conversion mechanism was coded by Don the DM McVitie. Other people have helped me with this. There was something regarding, I'm not exactly sure now because it was a long time ago. Doomsword helped me with the percentile strength factorial. Oh, thank you. Listen, I you know, if it was for Beck, me, it'd have bought. Yeah, I don't. I eat, drink, and breathe first edition AD&D. And by the way, I have told some people this, and I don't say this in a nasty, like angry voice at all. This right here, I'm pointing at a player's handbook in case you can't see. That's the user manual. TXT, I downloaded a Python thing for VS Code. Actually, I downloaded just Python. I don't even remember what it was, and installed it on my PC. And until Doomsword introduced me to VS Code, I was typing it in Notepad. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, so some people have pinged me back. I know, Rob, I know. But some people have pinged me back and said, "Hey, why doesn't this work?" Okay, well, tell me what you're trying to do. And I'm flop sweating, like, oh God, oh my, what I do wrong? And then they're like, I'm trying to get X. I'm like, half elves can't be paladins. Look in the player's handbook. Is it in the player's handbook? Oh, I checked, and I thought that's always the way we did it. Well, that's not the way it works. It is feature complete, 100% first edition compliant. Does Oriental Adventures use different terms for currency? I never dug deeply enough into Oriental Adventures to know. I don't know. I know there is different Greyhawk currency, and that is 1E itself. There are iron, what is iron rilks? No, rilks are in the Fafhrd and Grey Mouser books, but there are iron coins and there are bronze Z's. That I know. Bronze coins are called Z's, and it's like 100 BZs to a single copper. So, and then it was like 200 iron to a single bronze. So you would need like a planet-sized chunk made out of iron Greyhawk coins to amount to any appreciable amount of even silver in Greyhawk. Yes, GPs are orbs. I think are silver coins crescents. I think platinums are stars. No, it is code complete GPA. I don't want to sound ugly when I say this, but someone would have to offer me upfront a boatload of money to start making major feature changes in it at this point. I had, and this, I want to be 150% clear about this. It no longer exists anymore. Don't ask me for it. Don't say, well, give me the code and I can do it. I experimented for part of an afternoon with putting some Unearthed Arcana in it. And I was just like, no. Mm-mm. The amount of variables, both metaphorical and literal, for the rules and in the code itself that it introduced were causing glorious fireworks shows of bugs to explode outward. So I will not be I think it was, yes, Robert Phillips, Iron Dabbers. And then I don't Dabbers, Z's, don't remember copper, silver moons, golden orbs, platinum stars, or possibly suns. But yeah, it's not modular GPA. It's not like, oh, I can just add something onto it. There's hooks right here. I can just add stuff into it. And purple, they're always after me, Lucky Charms. The best I could tell you to do is make a close approximation in text, and then save your character in text, and then adjust them in text accordingly. But there's never going to be a 2e version of this. There's never going to be Dark Sun or OA or UA or WSG and DSG and Manual of the Plains and Greyhawk Adventures and Dragonlance Adventures stuff finding its way into this. It's done. It's done. So, and I have had some questions like, well, hey, are you Dunzo? Yes. And hello, Gonzalo. Oh yeah, I mean, dude, I was drowning. There'd be nights I was looking at it and I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at here. I wrote this and I don't know what I'm looking at here. And it's literally just running I'd be okay, trace on. This executes and that executes and this. Oh, that's what that does. Okay. My code has comments in it, Gonzalo. I have a comment that like I put in there. Even ChatGPT thought it was funny. I have a section of code that is called what I don't remember off the top of my head what the function was, but it was whatever this does. So VS Code will stop bitching at me. It's like it's just like a tiny piece of code that I had to write because VS Code was like, no, you've got this error. I'm not going to compile and run. Well, what do you want? And I go and I start Googling stuff and I was like, fine. And I just make a Band-Aid and I stuck it in there and it's titled function so VS Code will stop bitching at me. It's commented, rest assured. The most interesting calendar in a D&D game setting? Oh, yeah, Dragonlance is interesting. I like mentally fitting the Greyhawk calendar to the real world calendar, but because they have the fests, they have a week of fests: Brewfest, Growfest, Need Fest. But that's not necessarily the most interesting. I would say ask someone who has played a lot of Dragonlance or a lot of Forgotten Realms and enjoyed it. Because, I mean, my knee-jerk reaction is just to say, oh, well, it's that, But anyway, if that scratches your itch, if that tells you that is something that you need in your life, if you look at that and say, hey, wait a second, I want a cool first edition character creation program. Yours is cool. It works. It doesn't catch fire. Let me know. And we can make something happen. But anyway, so with that said, I want to look at a little bit of TTRPG news that has come across the newswire. And again, I think this is information that is very cool. So let's see if I do studio presentation. Nope, that's just me. Let's see here. Oh, you're not going to show that now. Oh, that is so typical. That is so typical of. All right, let's see. All right, let's go back over to studio presentation. Thank you, Gonzalo. Thank you very much for the super. 7.24 thousand subs. Yeah, yeah, it's happening. But I thank you very much. So let's see. Select a window to capture. I think I accidentally closed the window that I wanted to capture. So let me try this again. Let me try this again. I don't think we're going to be clipping this, or if I do, I'm going to edit it down to the point where I actually get this working. Well, that's just the Chrome window. Well, here, let's do this for now. You know what? I'm going to So some RPG news has come up. Now, I don't really know as this impacts us that much here on the old school end of things, but this is kind of something that I found sort of really interesting. And I wanted to talk to you guys about this just a little bit. It happened a while ago, and that is that Jessalyn Zillow, who was the Dungeons and Dragons VP at Wizards of the Coast, left her job. Okay, why is that significant? She's been with WotC for 8 years, and she was not that long ago when Lorraine Williams left that she transitioned into the VP role, and that was not a long time ago. And it says, well, what does it mean for the future of D&D below? We break out all the details, explains, what she did. Cynthia Williams. I said Lorraine Williams. She was also responsible, or not responsible, but part of the defunct Project Sigil virtual tabletop. And why did she leave? It says it's not clear, given that she was only recently promoted to her VP role a little over a year ago. And they point out something that I agree with. It doesn't bode well that the Dungeons and Dragons team has seen the departure of so many high-profile leaders in such a short period of time. So let me talk about this for just a second. Let me just kind of go over this for a hot minute. When Jeremy Crawford left Wizards of the Coast, that was a pretty high profile departure. Chris Perkins left. Okay, Chris Perkins, Jeremy Crawford. Crawford was writing in first edition AD&D stuff to give you how long Crawford had been in touch with the body politic of Dungeons and Dragons. And so they left, and I thought something stank to high heaven. I thought maybe the 50th anniversary had been kind of a dud, and given that they didn't really do anything at all to celebrate the history of Dungeons and Dragons, that certainly seemed like a thing. D&D 2024, by all accounts, is not selling like the hotcakes they want it to. And if it was, why leave when you fostered it in? Why leave when you've been part of this wonderful, great thing? Well, then I looked into it a little bit. They left with a ton of stock options that they could take off the table. And Wizards of the Coast line, or Hasbro's line, was moving up. You can't touch those things depending on your company until you leave. So they literally took the money and ran. And hey, don't hate the players, hate the game. Good on them for cashing in and checking out. Here's the interesting thing. They didn't just leave. They weren't like, yeah, I'm going to sit on a dock and watch the ducks fuck. Sit in my mansion and enjoy myself and play some 4th edition or 5th edition or 3.5 and just enjoy whatever. They left, and immediately they went over to Darrington Press. And in case you're not aware, Darrington Press is the company that publishes the TTRPG side of Critical Role. Their Daggerheart RPG. Their Alleged Horror RPG. They jumped ship. I have come back around from they just left to get rich. The company's doing great, to rats leaving a sinking ship. And now Jess Lanzillo leaving. If she shows up at Darrington Press or even at Paizo, boyos, that is that I think will be the bellwether that stuff is seriously borked at WotC. Like beyond what we normally say. Beyond what we normally say. That's going to be proof positive that things have absolutely, positively, without a doubt, gone entirely off the rails at Wizards of the Coast. So, does that mean it? Is that, is this the big bellwether? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, but tune back in and I'll bring you guys more news on that front. Now, speaking of news, look, I feel like I got to address the gorilla in the room. I really did not want to talk about this. Guys, you guys know that I try and be sort of a guy who's positive, a harbinger of positivity, a warning that things are going to calm down. I won't say that I am a Zen master or anything like that, the master of the nothing ever happens. But I don't like to focus on negativity for negativity itself. One of the great and wonderful times that I have ever had on this show talking to a guest was spending time with the late Jim Ward. If Jim were still with us, I would be bringing him on here on at least a couple of times a year. I really liked Jim a lot. Jim was always cordial and fun and funny, and losing Jim hurt. The last thing that Jim Ward was working on was a new post-apocalypse science fantasy RPG called Giant Lands. The publisher for Giant Lands is a company called Wonderfilled. I had positive interactions with Wonderfilled on social media, just kind of kicking back and forth, chit-chatting with them, thumbs-upping their posts, getting likes from them. They'd share my post. This is a good thread. And I appreciated that. Yes, Violence. I do have some heavy gear. Stuff. I quite like heavy gear a lot. I wish more people did. That's for another time. Yesterday, my God, was it yesterday? Because no one has come forward and said, look, this was our social media person. This does not represent. They at Wonderfilled started posting racist screeds on Twitter and claiming that they did it with the help of Larry Elmore and the late Jim Ward. People called them out about it. And I was tagged because, again, my name has popped up at a few times in discussions with Wonderfilled. Here's one of their statements. In fact, we worked a lot with Larry Elmore. Steve once, don't know who that is. Jeff D, do know who that is, to make the art for Giant Lands more representative and inclusive. If you full stop right there, everything would have been fine. Nobody disagrees with that statement. But immediately they say, hold my yerba mate. The premise, what if in the future there were no white people? James Ward loved it too. I highly doubt that. Larry always tried to sneak in people of color into his TSR art. I've seen plenty of Larry's TSR art. There was no sneaking. If the piece called for it, they were there. Though he was often denied his attempts to make D&D less white. Look at this racist garbage. So we decolonized the RPG and made a future USA, and white people don't exist. Ladies and gentlemen, this is completely around the bend bonkers. This is completely 110% around the corner bad. It would be just as bad if they were talking about the mustachioed Austrian guy for exactly the same reason. And if you don't agree, I can't help you. But they have doubled and tripled down. They have put up videos basically saying Giant Lands is all about the extermination of white people. And we love that fact. We don't want white people to play our games. We don't want you to enjoy it. We don't want to put white people in our games. So that's Wonderfilled, and that's what they've gotten up to. If you ever saw a friendly exchange between myself and Wonderfilled, that is a time beyond. That is a time in the past. I rebuke and refute anything they have to say, and I have no association with them at all. What you do, what you choose to do, how you choose to interact with people who make hateful, racist statements like this, is entirely up to you. But this last sentence, they bought the books and didn't realize the premise is that they and their kind are finally gone from the earth. So help us God. I don't really know what to do or say about that other than say, do not give Wonderfilled your business. Tell other people not to give them their business. If you have an FLGS and they stock Wonderfilled products, tell them to stop. Screenshot this. Go back a few seconds, screenshot it, and say, dude, you're selling racist crap. So there you go. So that's yeah. That is the latest and greatest from Wonderfilled and Giant Lands, and I absolutely do not believe, not for a nanosecond, that Jim Ward would have had anything to do that. Look, I spent time with Jim Ward. About 6 hours worth of interviews with Jim Ward, maybe more. Hung out with him at LGGC back when Gary was still with us. And he never said anything this vile or this racist. None of that ever crossed his lips. So yeah. So that happened. That was a thing that happened. That sort of blew up on social media yesterday and was the cat turd in the Cheerios for me. I can tell you that much. Good riddance to bad rubbish. And that is the last I will ever say. If you're watching this video at some point in the future, when I say yesterday, I am referring to the 25th of June, 2025. So there you go. Now, let's talk about something that is equally but differently ragey. But it ends up being a good thing. It ends up being a good thing. So this is now one thing I will tell you. This has sweet FA to do with the subject of TTRPGs. However, if I can use a little bit of my platform for the good of gaming in general, I am going to do that. So let's talk about this individual. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Jason Thor Hall. Jason Thor Hall is known by the moniker Pirate Software out on the internet. He has a YouTube channel, which is 1 billion times bigger than mine. I am one of those asteroids that has a 62 number name after a decimal place that is somewhere between Pluto's orbit and the Oort cloud that one lonely astronomer knows about. And this guy is Saturn. Let's just go ahead and put that out there right now. Jason Thor Hall is a self-described developer, although I don't think he's actually released a game. I think he started one in 2017 and he hasn't actually released it to anyone. No one can actually play it. There's candidates or early access up on Steam, but you can't actually play his games. If you can, and I'm wrong about that, I apologize. I'm not trying to misconstrue. I'm just saying his game's not out yet. But he says he's a developer. I've released a piece of software, but I don't call myself a developer. But, that is what it is. So why is this guy important? Other than calling himself a developer and having blown up his YouTube channel with some very clever manipulation of the YouTube algorithm, he has a loud voice. If I go on and I say do X or don't do X or do Y or don't do Y, you, my audience, you guys might not care that much. Or even if you do, more people won't. Mr. Hall has, at last count, like 1.2, 1.3 million subscribers on YouTube, which is not insignificant, even if you account in for a 10% bot rate, which is not his fault. He is he has a megaphone. Now, what has this to do with anything? Well, I will tell you. This person, if I can get the doohickey to do its thing. This person is Ross Scott. And no, that sign is not telling Ross Scott to stop killing games. Ross Scott is a video game reviewer. I could be wrong, but I think Mr. Scott may have tabletop gamed a couple of times too, but not that he much talks about it. Ross Scott likes to review early to mid 2000s video games. There are a lot of those games that came in at the dawn of GaaS, games as a service. And a game as a service, you've all probably run into this, is when you buy a game, You install the game on your PC or you put the disc in your console, and it has to connect to the internet, and it has to stay connected to the internet. And there are assets that the game gets from the internet, and there are things that it does that are saved out to the internet. And this goes on constantly. A good example of a game as a service would be World of Warcraft. Always on. There is no at home, I unplug the network cable, play Warcraft just on my PC. That can't happen. If you do that, it will basically, the game will pop up a dialogue and say, well, I'm just going to sit here until I get internet access back. There are a fair few number of those games where, despite you having internet service, the companies that made the games have said, we're ringing the curtain down. That's it. You can't play this game anymore. We're switching off the servers. Now, maybe your response to that would be, well, that's too bad. That's a shame. Here's the thing. Maybe you bought that as a premium game on release day and you paid $60, $70. Maybe you bought the action figure, the special box. You've still got those, but you can't play your game anymore. The software that you paid for is no longer usable by you. And he has shown several games that are like this. One was an open world, like literally a miniaturized version of the United States racing game called The Crew, made by Ubisoft. They shut the servers off. I've been victim of it myself. Far Cry 3 and 4 have multiplayer elements that have to do with the story. They're not essential to the story for completing the game, but they are multiplayer only, and they require being able to talk to Ubisoft servers. So you and I can't just go out and connect up to each other over the internet. We have to go through a centralized server. And that server's been shut off. Those parts of the games are gone forever. The Crew in its entirety is gone forever. He showed off I think it was a game based in the Spore universe that will never be playable again. You spent your money. These are good games. And more to the point, they're artistic creations. They're the efforts of artists, coders, writers, musicians, all of these people. And he made the analogy, this is like destroying film. And I agree with him. I absolutely agree with him. I agree with him from the visceral dollar point of view. Now, there are many games out there, and I'm just going to name a few that are games as a service: Warcraft, EverQuest, and Ultima Online, where users have created their own servers by interpreting what is going out of their computers, say, okay, you're wanting to do this, and this data is coming back. I can build a computer that can do that. Now, those games are still on and still supported, but people have created their own servers. In a nutshell, what Ross wants to do is take away the ability of games companies to pull stunts like that. That if they decide that they are going to no longer support a game, give the ability to the users to keep using the game somehow. And to that, we have this, the Stop Killing Games Initiative. Now, long story short, this is not really doable in the United States. But the good news is a lot of the game companies doing this are headquartered out of Europe. And this will establish international court precedent. Now, an American court doesn't have to listen to any international court's precedent for this kind of thing, but it does set a legal precedent. Ross launched the Stop Killing Games initiative. You can go to this URL, which I'm going to share with you guys right now. If you are in the EU, please go sign this petition to get this on a referendum, and it's 56% of the way there. By July 21st, it has to have 1 million signatures, 1 million valid signatures. Don't go there and spam. It will see where your IP address is from. If you're here in Florida and you're like John Smith, Jane Smith, Jim Smith, it's not going to work like that. You have to be from the EU. And this is a good thing. This is a great thing. Listen, go check out Ross's videos about this. He's Accursed Farms on YouTube. And that would be a good thing. Why did you bring up Thor then, Bill? Why did you bring up Jason Thor Hall? Someone mentioned it to him in one of his live streams. Someone mentioned to this individual in one of his live streams. Remember when I said he's a developer? He went apeshit and he tore down the initiative. He ripped it a new one. He said it was used car salesman logic. He said it was bad. He said some absolutely horrible things directly to Ross Scott. Ross tried to engage with him in a friendly level because Ross is a nice guy. Commented on the video and said, I think you've got some facts wrong. And of course, all of Mr. Hall's attack dogs went after Ross. And people have said, you're wrong. Every point you said that you disagree with this, you're wrong. Let me frame how wrong Thor Hall, Jason Thor Hall, has been about this. Let's say you ask me, Bill, sell me on first edition AD&D. And I say, okay, well, some of the features are armor class. Races are good. Spells, it's got spells. Adventures, it's got good adventures. So there's 4 things. There's 4 things. And you respond, look, armor isn't classy. No one wants to see you at a formal event wearing a suit of armor. That's dumb. Who wants to race? I thought this was supposed to be a TTRPG. Who wants to get up and run around and get hot and sweaty? That's stupid. Not everybody can spell that well, Bill. An adventure, that's an Atari 2600 game. I have to have an Atari 2600 to play this? Good luck getting anybody enthused about that. This is the level of not understanding that this individual, Mr. Hall, engaged in when he addressed every point of it. He literally got every fact that he talked about tearing this thing down wrong. And because he has a big megaphone, he's listened to by a lot of people who just fall at his feet and listen to his word and don't really consider anything else. Well, Pirate Software said this was bad, so I'm not going to do this. And all of his facts are wrong. He has been told by multiple people. If you guys know who the video game YouTuber Moist Critical is, Charlie, as he is, has 16 million subscribers. And he said he back and forth with Mr. Hall here for hours in DMs saying, look, man, you were really harsh on Ross, and I don't think you got this right. And he Mr. Hall refuses to back down. And the issue is he is incapable of apologizing, and he is incapable of understanding that he was wrong right out of the gate. He has put a quash on the entire initiative. He's put a damper on it. To the point that during his live streams, he would just go off on what a bad thing he thinks it is. And personally, myself and other people believe it has led to the initiative faltering. Because here's a guy with 1.3 million listeners, viewers, call him what you will, followers. So the point of all of this is that there are a great many people who actually care about the consumer a lot. Louis Rossmann, for example, if you guys know who Louis Rossmann is. And they've kind of taken up the torch for this. And Mr. Hull, I'm not drama farming again. He just got the whole thing with Stop Killing Games completely wrong and just refuses to step back off of it. So if you see this come across your desk, and if you're in the EU and you can sign the Stop Killing Games petition, please do. Please do. That's the point I wanted to make. Don't listen to this guy. Don't listen to Jason Thor Hall about this because he's wrong. He is absolutely wrong. And I know a lot of people know about a bunch of the drama with him, with, the algorithm farming he did to get all of his subscribers when his content is slop. The thing with the World of Warcraft raid, that nonsense about the crypto cracking challenges, saying I, me, I solved these puzzles, so on and etc., despite the fact that it was an entire team that he was just a member of. Not even going to talk about that. Be well, Jorge. I just want to say, if you hear him saying something negative about the Stop Killing Games initiative, and it's something you can help do something about, then go sign this petition, please. That's all I'm asking. And that's all the news. That's it. Let's get back to fun stuff, guys. Let's get back to cool stuff. Ask me D&D questions. Ask me any D&D questions you want, and I will answer them here in the next few minutes. I feel like I owe you guys some, because that was a good 20 minutes of videos about negative things, or video about negative things. So I want you to feel free to ask me stuff. But if games are not alive, how do you know they're not alive? Did you miss our opening ramble of 30 something minutes about AI? How do you know? Oh, what is my favorite trap? Okay, look. I'm going to admit I have a soft spot for the grim tooth traps. Okay. Oh, we're getting good questions. All right. My favorite trap. Published in AD&D, my favorite trap, and I've used it a couple of times, is actually in the Dungeon Master's Guide. There is an obsidian vase on a pillar that is worth that is, to outward observation, worth 5,000 gold pieces. If you touch it, it turns into a black pudding immediately. So it's like blop, which of course means you have to fight it. When it's destroyed, it turns back into a vase. And I feel like that's a pretty cool trap. That's a pretty cool trap. So published traps, that's damn near a favorite of mine. It's a bit janky, it's a bit gimmicky, but I actually do like the siren in the ocean chamber in Tomb of Horrors. My favorite Grimtooth trap is the amazing Ginsu chute. It's a round pit trap, steep angle, with a blade dividing at the bottom into two half-sized chutes. You slide down, you hit the blade, schleck. Unless you're wearing armor, and then potentially when the blade hits you, it just knocks the poor bastard silly, so they can't climb up out of the tube. What was the question here? Now, have I ever used a Grimtooth traps at a table? Yes, I have. There's All That Shimmers, Glimmers, and Kills, which is a diamond particle fall. I mean, if you step into it, it will just slice you to pieces. And the other is a giant golden beehive that basically it's a 360-degree directional mine that fires out steel darts. It's like 4 or 5 feet tall. Let's see. Another one that literally my Monday night group spent 3 hours on. And by 3 hours, I mean the second and third hour of one week and the first hour of the next one. And it is a bronze statue standing in the middle of a trap, the middle of it is a trap in the middle of a fountain. It is holding a golden spear. It's like the statue is all corroded and rusted. It is holding a metal spear up. There's stagnant water in the fountain. If you decide that you want the spear because it's had a false dwemer put on it to make it radiate magic, and you walk out, you step into the pond. When you get halfway, the statue's arm drops, the spear touches the water and discharges electricity into the water, and it does lightning bolt like damage to the character. I used that one, and sweet Jesus, the party overcame it. They brought out tools. They cracked open the side of the fountain. And yes, I did roll for wandering monsters for every round that they smashed away at the fountain. And I used the construction rules in the AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide. And then they drained the water. And then when they got up to the statue, the thief levitated and said, without touching it, I'm going to examine the statue. I'm going to check for traps. I rolled like a 3. And I was like, you see a joint at the shoulder where it looks like the arm could pivot. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're not messing with this. And so they stood off, they tied a rope, or they lassoed the spear, tied a rope, and then pulled it. It was so annoying. It was so annoying. Let's see. I have more questions. I have more questions. Joe Kaufman, favorite dual class. Fighter thief, human fighter thief. Because if they have the stats, they're on their way to Bard. Otherwise, I would say fighter magic user. Hope that answers your question, my friend. What do I think the best Sword and Planet flavor of module or setting? What do I think is the best? I've never really played one. I have never really played a Sword and Planet style module or adventure. I wish I knew of one. Let's see. Do I solo play any? Not for a long time. I did every now and again when I was a kid. Okay, homebrew wise, do I give fighters any benefits for having a higher than normal mental stats? Not homebrew wise. There are certain benefits to having a high intelligence in terms of certain magic effects, saving throws, and that sort of thing. And those are across the board for fighters, thieves, clerics, assassins, illusionists. You know, high wisdom or high intelligence. High intelligence can be a detriment if you're facing a mind flayer. The smarter you are, the worse psionic blast is going to hurt. What do I think the optimum size of a gaming group is? I personally think the optimum size is 6 to 7. I think the most fun size is 9 to 11. I think the maximum size you should attempt is 24, because I have done 24. It wasn't fun. I did it. It was insane, but I did it. But yeah, I would say 6 to 7 is probably the optimal size. I don't think a new DM should tackle 6 to 7. I think a new DM should start with 1 or 2, literally just a brief solo, like, you know, you walk into the old abandoned house just to get a feel for the mechanics and the unpredictability 1 or 2 people could bring. Take care, Rob Turner. It was at a con, and it was only one time, Sci-Fi Snob, and woo! That's a good number for an AD&D group, Savo. I mean, if they're high, if everybody's high enough level and you've got maybe a couple of multi-class demi-humans in an AD&D group, that's fine. 4 is good. You can do 4. I start to feel a little weird as a experienced DM if I have only a couple, but I'll do it. By God, if there's 2 people that want a game, I'll run it for them. Absolutely. So, did I have an egg time? No, but I did not sit down. I was moving around that table practically constantly. I was uncovering Dwarven Forge. I stopped moving miniatures and just started moving the fighter with an upheld sword. You guys have actually seen him in the Tuesday night AD&D game. That was just the guidon. If the party got to a room, myself and a buddy of mine who could see that I was like wearing down to a nub would move the character miniatures to the appropriate room. Favorite sci-fi RPG? That is a good question. Favorite sci-fi RPG? I would say I really like the Mech Warrior universe, despite the fact that a lot of it drives me up the wall. That is a good candidate. It's probably the sci-fi RPG I played the most, but then I've also played both versions of it. I have only played Traveler. I have not game mastered Traveler or refereed it or whatever. I thought it was okay. I thought Traveler was okay. I really appreciate the place in TTRPG history that Traveler holds. I don't know if we can call Gamma World a sci-fi RPG or if it's more of a science fantasy RPG. So I would feel like that's almost just like a generic, like a science fictiony post-apocalypse RPG. You would say Game World is sci-fi? Yeah, I mean, yeah. Paranoia is a lot of fun. Paranoia is a lot of fun. I will say this before anybody asks. My favorite post-apocalypse RPG setting is Twilight 2000. Oh, I so want to run a game and have a slugfest with some tanks, almost battle techy in that they're barely held together with baling wire and duct tape. Take care, Ishay. Damien asked for that 24 player group. Did I have to manage some other DMs? One of my players, a friend of mine at the time, was at the con with us, and he was being extremely helpful answering people's questions and also running his own character. So yeah, I would say I had some help. I'm not gonna be so bold as to say me alone ran. I mean, it was he knew it was my adventure, and he didn't come over and grab the rules or anything. But when people had questions, he was able to step up and tell them, or basically be a caller and get questions back to me. 1E, Off-Grid Gamer 1E. It's available POD, print on demand. Do recommend. And thank you for the super, by the way. Thank you very much for the super. How many characters survived of that? I think everyone did. There was enough healing. There were 4 or 5 clerics, and they loaded up on healing spells, healing and turn undead and fighting when they had to. And plenty of fighters to help keep the magic users and thieves alive. And I'm not gonna wave a mutilation. Now, with that said, the last game I ran at that con, not that particular weekend, but the last game I ran at that con, I offed 3 of 6 who went into the Tomb of Horrors game, and the party made it to the haunted chapel where the paladin went into the misty opening and came out chaotic, evil, and female. They had a couple of characters get incredibly badly injured to the altar when it fired the lightning bolt. And then they decided they would camp. And that's when I rolled a d6 to see what type of demon a Sararak would gate in to attack them. And it was a Marilith type 5. Which I told Gary about that, and he said that is absolutely what you should have done. Good for you. if they're going to be dumb enough to camp in there. So when they saw that demon appear, the paladin who had gone back through the portal to change from chaotic evil back to lawful good, the paladin just like grabbed the 2 surviving people, and they were like, "We're leaving now." I'm grabbing them and I'm dragging them towards the door as the Marilith is trying to chase them down. What is the largest party I've wiped out? On this show, we had a Tuesday night when 4 of 6 fell in a near total wipe. It was the cistern in the Greyhawk sewers underneath the Collegium Magica. They died to water spiders, and Mark, playing I think the party's thief or magic user, maybe, I don't remember, was just like, "Fuck this shit, I'm out." And he just climbed. He was not like, "Yeah, I know they're drowning in there. I know there's some paralyzed and drowning guys, but I'm just leaving." So he left, and rather than build a party around that, one character, he said, "I'm just going to roll up a new character and we're going to start over." So that ended up basically being a total party kill. Good night, great old ones. Good night. Oh, it is late. We have gone on for a while, and 296 of you people have tuned in to say hello, and I really appreciate it. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up tonight, guys, unless you have any parting questions for me. We will go ahead and call it an evening. Listen, I want to thank you guys all very, very, very much for hanging out with me this evening. I do appreciate it. We will be back tomorrow night. We will be here to play some Gemma World. You should really, really check us out. Savo, it was wonderful to see you again, dear. I hope you're well. Stop around a little bit more. Swing by over on the Twitch space and show us some of your beautiful, beautiful artwork. I would really love to see some more of that again. But until then, everybody, be good to each other. And I'm kind of surprised that nobody bothered to ask, what is my favorite ornithological... Oh, thank you, Wave. Thank you very much for the super. What is my favorite bipedal ornithological / ursine hybrid monster in first edition AD&D? Because I would have told you all point blank, it is the owl bear. Peace. Good night. Love you all.
Have you seen my owl bear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere, in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around, some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle, way off course? Naked as a toad, all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me to the show.